Welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Julia Kim. Here are the top stories from the continent. Ethiopians mourn after the murder of several top officials in what the government is calling a failed coup. Authorities say the man responsible has been shot dead. Sudan's political standoff continues after the military rejects a power-sharing deal brokered by Ethiopia. This comes just a day after the Sudanese opposition agreed to the plan. And the Ivory Coast celebrate their 1-0 victory over South Africa in the Cup of African Nations. Our correspondents follow the action with the fans. First, Ethiopians are still reeling from the events of last weekend, which saw the killing of several high-profile politicians. The president of the Amhara region, Ambachew Mekonnen, his top advisor and the state's attorney general were shot dead. Several hours later, in Addis Ababa, the head of the army was killed by his bodyguard in a murder-suicide. According to the Prime Minister's office, the man who is said to be responsible for at least one of the attacks was then shot dead on the outskirts of Bahir Dar, the capital of Amhara region. Nicolas Germain reports.
General Asamnya was killed on Monday by security forces. He was the alleged mastermind behind the killing of the president of the Amhara region on Saturday and could be linked to the murder a few hours later of the head of the army. Despite this political crisis, the streets of Addis Ababa were calm on Monday. Many Ethiopians were shocked.
I feel very sad. These were educated people who served the nation and its people. This is a major loss for the country. What was committed was disgraceful and horrifying.
The general who did this had a high leadership position, and I'm very sad about what he did. He was placed in that position because he was trusted. He's a fascist. It is a heinous assassination that no one expected in the 21st century.
General Asamnya had recently called on the Amhara to take up arms. Amhara emperors had ruled Ethiopia for more than a century but lost power in 1991. In recent years, there has been a rise in Amhara ethnic nationalism. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power in April 2018. He himself survived an assassination attempt exactly a year ago. He has carried out sweeping reforms. Most notably, he made peace with Eritrea and released thousands of political prisoners. This has won him international praise but led to clashes in several regions. More than 2 million people have been displaced by conflict since the beginning of his reforms.
Well, for more now, we can go live to Addis Ababa to talk to Tom Gardner. Tom, tell us, what's the latest over there?
Here in Addis now it's a media blackout, actually across the entire country. The internet is shut down entirely. Text messaging also seems to be down as of this morning. So there's a lot of speculation and rumours rife really in the absence of clear information. In Bahir Dar, where the event took place on the weekend, I'm told there is some movement in the streets now. Businesses are opening up, but many people are still staying inside. I was told by one resident that they have been continuing to hear some gunfire over the last couple of days. The TV stations, some of the radio stations here are in mourning mode. They're commemorating those who lost their lives. And here in Addis, there's a fairly heavy security presence around the capital and also on the roads in and out.
Now, it seems there's lots of confusion as to what exactly happened and why. How have people interpreted these events?
Well, as you said, the government was fairly quick to offer its account of events. The Prime Minister appeared on national TV pretty soon afterwards, on Saturday evening, announcing that it had been a coup attempt, which was successfully thwarted. He blamed Asamnya, the regional security chief, as the orchestrator and said the murder of the army head at Addis as part of the plot. In Addis and elsewhere, there is a fair amount of skepticism, I think, as to whether this actually amounted to a coup d'etat. It didn't seem like there was a seriously premeditated effort to seize control of the state, especially the central government in Addis Ababa. Others think it's more likely that the regional security chief was resisting an attempt by the regional government in coordination with the federal government to remove him from his position, and that confrontation turned violent. But I think we really need more information to be jumping to conclusions, especially whether this is anything more than an isolated incident within the regional state or a broader national conspiracy to overthrow the Prime Minister. It's really not clear at the moment, but it was the latter.
All right, Tom Gardner, thank you very much for that. Tom Gardner reporting that for us from Addis Ababa. Let's move on now. And Sudanese security forces have broken up a student protest in Khartoum today, 3 weeks after a deadly crackdown that killed over 100 people. Dozens of students chanted the word civilian, demanding a civilian-led ruling body, but they were chased and beaten by security forces. The volatile standoff looks set to continue. Earlier today, the military council rejected an Ethiopian plan to lead Sudan out of its current political crisis. This coming just a day after the Sudanese opposition said it would accept the deal. Nadia Massey reports.
It's stalemate in Sudan. The opposition has okayed an Ethiopian plan designed to kick off the country's long journey towards democracy. But on Sunday evening, the country's top military generals said they weren't on board.
Sudan is an independent state which does not accept orders from abroad or solutions put forward in advance that threaten national security. The military reiterates that there are many international initiatives from allied countries.
In other words, there are plenty of options on the table, and we won't accept Ethiopia's proposal just yet. According to opposition negotiators, Ethiopia's initiative would give civilian leaders the most seats on Sudan's top body until elections can be held in a few years' time. That isn't tenable to the generals, who are reluctant to hand over power. They have, though, expressed interest in an African Union plan. Its details haven't been made public, but it's likely to give the military generals a majority share on that top body. So where does the deadlock leave the rest of Sudan? Well, protesters are still demanding democracy, but their numbers on the streets are fewer and fewer. That's because the internet has been cut and because people are afraid. 3 weeks ago, security forces opened fire on unarmed demonstrators, killing over 100 people. Since then, trust has broken down, and the opposition says the military generals need to accept responsibility for the lives lost.
Nadia Massey reporting there. Mauritania's opposition parties are calling for peaceful protests after the result of last weekend's presidential election. On Sunday, ruling party candidate Mohamed Ould Ghazouani was declared the winner with 52% of the votes. But the opposition has cried foul, likening the vote to a power grab by the military. A former general, Ghazouani was defense minister under outgoing President Abdelaziz, who seized power in 2008. Saturday's vote was billed as the nation's first peaceful transfer of power since Mauritania gained independence from France in 1960. Let's turn now to some of the latest action from the Africa Cup of Nations. And in Group D, Ivory Coast kicked off their bid for football glory with a 1-0 win against South Africa. The Elephants' Jonathan Khudija scoring the only goal of that game. Our correspondent in Abidjan followed every pass, tackle and save with some very excited fans. Take a look.
We're here at the main watch party in Ivory Coast, on the campus of the Félix Houphouët-Boigny University in Abidjan. While normally we report here about student protests or strikes, today thousands of students have filled the field to watch their country's first match in the African Cup of Nations. Things got off to a bit of a slow start after a 10-minute technical difficulty, even though the event is run by the national TV station. However, with the support of brass bands and cheerleaders, the mood was excellent throughout. Then, in the 64th minute, the forward, Jonathan Khudija, scored and the crowd went wild. So after winning their first match 1-0, we speak to one of their biggest fans.
We have the best players in Africa, and all the world know that. So we are very, 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 very impatient to have again the Cup of Africa.
So Ivory Coast have got off to the best possible start. Now all eyes are on Friday's match against Morocco.
Well, in Group E, Tunisia and Angola drew 1-1, and Mali and Mauritania are preparing to face off later tonight at 10 p.m. Paris time. And that's it for this edition of Eye on Africa. Thanks for staying with us. Mark Owen is up next with the latest world news. Stay tuned.
Okay, ladies, you are a fantastic team of journalists. For this event, the whole world will be watching you, will be listening to you. You'll be broadcasting live in special editions on the website and on social media. Now, your analysis, your expertise, your rigor are vital for such an event. So, ladies, you must give it all you've got. Are we ready?
With France 24's team, follow the Women's World Cup.
France 24 es rigurosidad, precisión y responsabilidad. Somos una familia comprometida con el periodismo y la verdad.
C'est une des seules chaînes d'infos où on nous laisse jouer en plateau avec des Legos, avec des robots, avec tout un tas d'objets.
We take a return ticket to revisit some of the key people and places of the last 50 years of world television news.
على فرانس 24 يمكننا أن نحاور أصحاب القرار من العالم في كل الميادين ولدينا المساحة لكشف ثنايا مسيرتهم.
Aquí en France 24 tenemos a varias personas de distintos países, algo que es un reflejo de cómo es Latinoamérica, con culturas muy distintas. Y allí es muy bonito encontrar que en el deporte todos tenemos algo en común.
Les femmes, elles sont souvent victimes de l'actualité internationale, mais ce sont aussi des actrices majeures de la géopolitique. Et d'ailleurs, on en parle dans France 24.
After 4 years of conflict that raged across 5 continents, ravaged Europe and killed some 10 million people, the peace conference opened in France. 32 countries were invited to Paris. Delegations from around the world took part in a spirit of collective harmony. The Treaty of Versailles was signed, but it proved to be one of the most controversial agreements in history, leading to claims that it gave rise to the Second World War. Through interviews and previously unseen archive footage, watch this fascinating investigation into the era of interwar years.
Reporters, presented by Mark Owen on France 24 and France24.com.